My name is Danielle Carter, and I'm 29 years old. The morning my boyfriend told me I was suffocating him and that he needed to live alone for a while, something small and stubborn inside me quietly stopped begging to be chosen. It was a Thursday, nothing dramatic, no slammed doors, just the familiar ping of a text. We need to talk tonight. I was at my little dining table slash desk, coffee going lukewarm beside my laptop, spreadsheets open, headset on mute between meetings. I'd lived in this two-bedroom apartment for 4 years. My lease, my credit check, my furniture, my life. Ethan, 27, had moved in almost 2 years ago with two duffel bags, a PS5, and a plant he kept forgetting to water. We'd called it the adult upgrade. Same city, nicer place, shared rent, split responsibilities. Except it hadn't stayed split. By the time he sent that text, I was paying 70% of everything. The rent, the utilities, the internet, so he could edit photos and scroll while I took late calls. It had all crept up so slowly it almost felt like my idea. He came home that night with a face that looked like it had already rehearsed the conversation. He waited until I closed my laptop, until I tucked my hair behind my ear the way I always did when I needed to focus. Then he sat across from me like I was a manager about to give him a performance review. "I've been thinking," he started. "That's never good." He took a breath. "I feel like I'm losing my identity living with you. I need my own space to breathe. You're not doing anything wrong, but I'm suffocating." The word hit the air like a bad smell. "Suffocating," I repeated, just to make sure I'd heard it right. He nodded, relieved I wasn't yelling yet. "I need to live alone for a while. This isn't about us breaking up. I just need to rediscover who I am without someone always there." I watched him the way I analyze a budget. Where are the gaps? What's not being said? "Is there someone else?" I asked. He recoiled like I'd slapped him. "This is exactly what I mean. You're always so suspicious. I just need independence, Danny. Some space." Funny, I thought. Independent people usually pay their own electric bill. But I didn't say that. Not yet. Instead, I asked, "So what does that look like for you?" His eyes lit up with the excitement of someone who'd already made plans. "I found a studio downtown. It's perfect for me. Brick walls, great light for my photography. I can move in next month. We can still date, just with space." I let the silence stretch. The TV in the background murmured nonsense. The fridge hummed. "You want me to move out?" I said finally. He hesitated a fraction of a second too long. "Well, it makes more sense for you to find something. This place is perfect for my equipment. And you work from home. You can work anywhere." There it was, the audacity. The apartment I'd furnished piece by piece. The couch I'd chosen after 5 different fabric swatches. The coffee table I'd rescued from someone's curb and refinished myself. My name on the lease, my credit on the line. Suddenly, it was all perfect for him. I looked at him for a long time. He squirmed. "I want you to be happy," I said. His shoulders loosened. "Exactly. That's what this is about." "So, you want to live alone?" I nodded slowly. "Okay." Relief flooded his face. He stood up, came around the table, hugged me, like I'd just agreed to adopt a puppy. "This is going to make us stronger, Danny. You'll see. We just need to grow individually." Something inside me went very, very still. That Saturday, I rented a U-Haul. He believed his own timeline. Next month, when it was convenient, when he'd wrung every last drop of comfort out of the space I paid for. He went to a photography workshop with his friends that morning, kissing my forehead on the way out. "Don't stress about this, okay?" he said. "We've got time." "We do," I agreed, just not the way he thought. When the door closed behind him, I stood in the center of the living room and turned in a slow circle. Every object had a memory attached to it. The TV stand we argued about but compromised on. The rug we'd spilled wine on. The KitchenAid mixer he'd insisted we needed but never used. I picked up a roll of tape. "Let's do the math," I murmured to myself. Lease, my name. Utilities, my name. Furniture, 90% mine. Emotional labor, don't even start. I started packing. By noon, my office was dismantled. Desk, monitors, ergonomic chair, all loaded into the truck. Next went the living room TV, the PS5. I'd paid for it on my card. He'd pay me back later. The coffee table I'd restored. The bar stools I'd ordered online after triple-checking measurements. The kitchen took the longest. I wrapped the mixer, the espresso machine, the air fryer and dish towels, and crammed them into boxes. If I'd paid for it, it went. Even the shower curtain, which felt petty, until I remembered scrolling through receipt emails to make sure I wasn't stealing anything that wasn't mine. Petty is stealing. This is inventory, I told myself. It was almost evening when I heard the key in the lock. He stepped in, laughing at something on his phone, then froze. The laughter died. Half the apartment was gone. The echo hit him first. What are you doing?" he demanded, voice pitching higher. I was carrying out a box of books. "You need space to find yourself," I said calmly. "I'm giving you all the space you need." He followed me into the hallway. "Danny, what are you talking about? Why is the TV gone? Where's your desk? Why—" "My desk, my monitors, my setup. I work from home, remember?" I said, loading the box into the truck. "I found a place, month-to-month lease across town." His mouth opened and closed like he was searching for a script that fit this scene. I thought you'd stay here until I moved out next month." I blinked at him. "Why would I do that? You said you were suffocating living with me. I'm fixing that immediately." "This is crazy," he snapped. "You can't just leave. Watch me." He tried again. "What about the rent? It's due in 2 weeks." "That's between you and the landlord," I said. "Your name isn't on the lease, remember?" Color drained from his face. "I can't afford $2,400 by myself." "You probably should have thought about that before deciding you needed independence," I said softly. His phone buzzed. He didn't look at it. I grabbed the last box. My cookbooks, a framed photo of my mom and me, and the succulent I'd kept alive somehow. "You're punishing me for being honest about my needs," he said, almost desperately. "Real partners support each other's growth." "I'm supporting your growth," I said, stepping past him. "You wanted to live alone. This is me giving you the chance." I drove away with the windows cracked just enough to feel the air. The city blurred past. For the first time in months, my chest didn't feel tight. Sunday morning, I went back for one last thing, my mail and my keys. The landlord, Mr. Ruiz, met me in the lobby. Late 50s, calm eyes, had always fixed things faster for me when I asked in Spanish. "You sure about this, Danny?" he asked as I handed him the keys. "I'm breaking the lease," I said. "I'm happy to pay the 2-month penalty." He shrugged. "Honestly, I already have 3 applications at $2,600. Market's wild. We'll be fine." Of course he already had applicants. This apartment wasn't going to cry over me. When I walked back outside, Ethan was sitting on the front steps, elbows on his knees, eyes red and swollen. He looked like a kid who'd just realized summer was over. "Please don't do this," he said, standing quickly. "Let's talk." "We talked," I reminded him. "You made your needs clear. I'm respecting them." "I didn't mean right now," he said, voice cracking. "I meant gradually." "When someone tells you they're suffocating," I said quietly, "you give them air immediately, not on their timeline." "Where am I supposed to go?" he demanded. "That studio isn't available until next month, and it's $1,800. I can't—" "You found a studio downtown, remember? Perfect for your photography," I said. "Sounds like a you problem." His jaw clenched. "You're being cruel." "No," I said. "I'm being what you asked for, absent from your space." I walked away. I didn't look back. That night, the text started. "This is so immature. You're overreacting. You're punishing me for being honest." I put my phone face down on my new, smaller kitchen counter. My new apartment was tiny, but it was mine. 1 bedroom, white walls, a view of a parking lot. I could hear my neighbor's TV through the wall. It felt like a reset. Sunday evening, I scheduled all my utilities to disconnect at the old place in 5 days when the billing cycle ended. Power, water, internet. I'd already set them up here. Minimal, efficient. Monday afternoon, my phone rang. Mom Ruiz flashed on the screen, the nickname I'd given for his mother when she called once from his phone. I let it go to voicemail. Then I listened. "Danielle, honey, it's Patricia. Ethan is very upset. Can't you two work this out like adults? He's just trying to grow. You don't have to be so dramatic." I saved the voicemail, then deleted the notification. Wednesday, a new text. "You're leaving him with nothing. He can't afford the rent. This is heartless." From a number I didn't recognize but knew was one of his friends. They always find a way to make your boundary sound like violence. On Thursday, a message from Ethan himself lit up my screen. "The landlord says I have 3 days to leave, or he'll start eviction proceedings. Please come back." I stared at the text for a long moment, my thumb hovering over the screen. For the first time since this started, I smiled. He'd asked for space. Now he had bills to go with it. 2 weeks passed. The silence between us was the kind that buzzed, low and constant, like an unplugged cord still carrying current. At first, Ethan tried to hold his ground, the self-proclaimed artist thriving in his newfound freedom. He posted pictures on Instagram of sunlight on coffee foam, captions about new beginnings and reconnecting with self. But the comments told a different story. "Where are you living now? Did Danny kick you out? By the third day, his captions dried up. The filters couldn't hide unpaid rent notices. The messages started again, short at first. I didn't think you'd really leave. You're overreacting. I just needed space, not abandonment. I didn't answer any of them. Every message felt like déjà vu, a man trying to rewrite the rules after signing the contract. Meanwhile, I was settling into my new studio apartment. It was small, barely enough room for a bed, a desk, and the little kitchen table I'd bought secondhand. But it was quiet. No lingering smell of someone else's coffee, no camera equipment scattered across the counter, no arguments about dishes or electricity bills or whose turn it was to buy groceries. Just silence. I learned how to fill it slowly. I'd wake up early, open the window to let in the street noise, brew my coffee, and water the single plant I'd brought with me. A jade plant that looked as stubborn as I felt. Sometimes I caught myself missing him, or rather, missing who I thought he was. The version who brought me soup when I was sick, who sent me playlists when we first started dating. The version before everything turned into an IOU. Then my phone would buzz again, and the nostalgia would burn off like fog under sunlight. One afternoon, I got a call from an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but the guilt of curiosity won. "Danielle Carter?" a woman's voice asked. "Yes? This is Patricia, Ethan's mother." "Of course." She didn't even pause before diving in. "Honey, Ethan is very upset. He said you left him in an impossible situation. He can't afford rent on his own. You know he's trying to get his photography business off the ground." I took a deep breath. "Patricia, I understand you care about him, but I'm not his landlord or his mother." "Don't be cruel," she said sharply. "You're being vindictive. Love isn't supposed to be transactional." I smiled bitterly to myself. Neither is rent. There was a pause, then a huff. "You millennials and your independence obsession. You'll regret this one day." "Maybe," I said softly, "but not today." I hung up. After that, the guilt campaign began. His friends texted. His sister sent a long paragraph about how I'd changed and become cold. One of his old photography buddies, Connor, even called pretending to be concerned. "Hey, Danny," he said awkwardly. "Ethan's really not doing well. Maybe just talk to him? He's spiraling." "Tell him to use all of that space he wanted," I said and hung up. For every text I ignored, the silence between us grew heavier, until I realized that silence was actually peace in disguise. Still, I kept tabs from a distance. I'd scroll through his social media once a week, just to see. Each post became a confession. The captions went from fresh starts to starting over is harder than I thought. Then one morning, my phone buzzed again. The message preview said, "Please, I need help. It's an emergency." I shouldn't have opened it. I should have deleted it like all the rest. But some part of me, the small, responsible part that used to fix everything, clicked anyway. "Danny, please call me back. It's serious." Against my better judgment, I called. He answered on the first ring. "Thank God." His voice was frantic, almost childlike. "I'm in trouble." I leaned against the counter, staring at the empty mug in my hand. "What kind of trouble?" I wrote some checks for the studio deposit and first month's rent. They bounced. The landlord says he's calling the police if I don't pay by tomorrow." I blinked. "You wrote bad checks?" "I thought my client payment would clear in time. It's just delayed." "Danny, please, I need $3,600. I swear I'll pay you back." "With what?" I asked. "Your self-discovery fund?" "Don't be like this," he pleaded. "You know I wouldn't ask if I wasn't desperate." I didn't answer. The silence stretched so long I could hear him start to cry. Quiet, frustrated gasps. "I could go to jail," he said finally. "You wouldn't let that happen, right?" "You wanted independence," I said. "This is what it looks like." "I can't believe you're doing this to me," he said. "I'm not doing anything to you. I'm just not rescuing you. There's a difference." He went quiet for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was sharp, accusatory. "You planned this. You wanted me to fail." "No," I said calmly. "I wanted you to succeed. But you can't do both. Ask for space and expect someone else to pay for it." "You don't understand," he said, voice cracking. "I just needed to find myself." "Then I hope you like what you find," I said, and hung up. The next day, his mother called again. Twice. Then 3 times. Each voicemail angrier than the last. "You're letting him go to jail over a misunderstanding. Real women support their men. This will come back to you, Danielle." Then Connor texted. "Brooke told me what's going on. You could help him. You should." Brooke. The name hit like static. I'd seen it before. In comments, tags, little clues that didn't mean much until now. Ethan's photography assistant. the one he'd sworn was just a friend. I typed back, maybe Brooke should help him. She's clearly closer to his studio situation. There was a pause, then, we're not like that. I smiled without humor. Not anymore, apparently. That night, I muted his number, set my phone face down, and lay in bed staring at the ceiling fan spinning lazy circles above me. For the first time, I realized something that felt almost cruel in its simplicity. He wasn't calling because he loved me. He was calling because he'd run out of people to depend on. And I was done being his safety net. Friday evening. The rain had started around 6, one of those slow, deliberate rains that make the city feel like it's rinsing off everything that's gone wrong. I was chopping vegetables for dinner when the intercom buzzed. The sound startled me. No one visited unannounced anymore. "Danielle Carter?" a man's voice asked through the static. "Yes?" "It's Connor. Can I come up?" My knife froze mid-slice. I pressed the button. "What do you want?" "Just 5 minutes, please." I thought about it, then sighed. Fine. A few moments later, there was a knock on my door. Connor stood there, damp from the rain, looking like he hadn't rehearsed what to say. "Look," he began, rubbing the back of his neck. "I know this is weird. Ethan's really struggling. He's crashing on Brooke's couch now." I raised an eyebrow. "Brooke, the assistant?" He winced. "Yeah, that's complicated." "Let me guess," I said, folding my arms. "He told you I'm heartless, that I left him out to dry." Connor gave a half shrug. "Something like that. But, after hearing everything, I think he left out a few details." I leaned against the doorframe. "Such as?" He hesitated. "That you paid for almost everything. That the apartment was yours. That he was kind of seeing Brooke before you moved out." There it was. Confirmation. Cold and clinical. No big reveal. No shock. Just the last puzzle piece clicking into place. "He told me it wasn't serious," Connor went on. "Just attention. She made him feel free or whatever, but when his checks bounced, she stopped answering." I nodded once. So much for freedom. He looked at me, guilt flickering behind his eyes. "You're not going to help him, are you?" "No," I said. "I already did, by leaving." He nodded slowly, as if realizing there was nothing left to say. "For what it's worth," he murmured, "you're not the villain here." "I know," I said quietly, and closed the door. That night, Ethan's name flashed across my phone again. Ethan. "Please, Danny, I'm sorry. I messed up. Brooke's gone. I need to talk to you." I stared at the message, my heart oddly calm. Then, against all logic, I replied, "You have 2 minutes." 10 minutes later, there was another knock. He looked wrecked. Hair unwashed, clothes damp, eyes swollen from lack of sleep. He stood in the doorway like a ghost from a version of my life I'd already buried. "Please," he said, voice breaking, "just hear me out." I stepped aside wordlessly. He walked in and stopped, glancing around my small studio. "This place is smaller than what you're used to." "It's mine," I said simply. He swallowed. "I messed up, Danny. Connor was right. Brooke meant nothing. It was stupid. I thought I wanted freedom, but I just wanted attention. I don't even know who I am anymore." I leaned against the counter. "You nuked our relationship for validation, Ethan. That's who you are right now." He flinched. "I didn't mean to hurt you. I was scared. You had everything figured out. Your job, your bills, your life. I felt like I was disappearing inside it." I looked at him, really looked. The boyish face I used to love, now drawn tight with panic. The hands that used to hold mine, now fidgeting empty. "You weren't disappearing," I said softly. "You just didn't want to keep up." He closed his eyes. "I thought I needed space, but I just needed to know you'd still be there when I was done finding myself." "That's not love," I said. "That's a safety net." He started to cry, the kind of ugly, heaving sob that makes your chest ache just hearing it. "Please," he said, "I'll do anything. I don't know where to go." I let him cry. I let the silence fill the room until his breathing steadied. Then I said, "You can start by leaving." He blinked at me, stunned. "What?" "You wanted independence," I said. "Congratulations. You're independent. Go live it." "Danielle." "No," I said sharply. "I gave you everything. My home, my time, my patience. And you mistook it for something disposable. You wanted me gone so you could find yourself? Fine. Now you can find a couch too." He stared at me for a long moment, then whispered, "You really hate me." "I don't," I said. "I just don't love the version of you that expects to be rescued." His eyes filled again, but there was nothing left to say. He turned, opened the door, and left without another word. I closed it behind him, leaned my back against the wood, exhaled until the air in my lungs stopped shaking. Outside, the rain kept falling, steady, soft, endless. I didn't cry. I just stood there and listened, letting the sound wash over me. For the first time in years, I didn't feel suffocated. 3 months later, life moved quietly. I'd stopped checking his social media. Mutual friends said he'd moved back in with his parents. Word was, Brooke ghosted him after he couldn't pay her back for a lens he'd borrowed money to buy. Then, one afternoon, my email pinged. Subject line, "You won." It was from Patricia. "I hope you're happy." "He's miserable. He cries every night. He lost everything because you couldn't forgive one mistake." I stared at it for a long time, then typed back. "He didn't lose everything because I couldn't forgive him. He lost everything because he threw it away expecting me to catch it. I just stopped catching." I hit send. That evening, I stopped by Trader Joe's after work. In the wine aisle, I saw him. Khaki uniform, name tag slightly crooked, scanning labels with the same distracted expression I once loved. He looked up. Our eyes met. For a moment, I thought he'd speak, but he didn't. I just nodded, walked past, didn't look back. Later that night, my phone buzzed again. A text from an unfamiliar number. "Hi, this is Lily, Ethan's sister. I know this is strange, but I wanted to thank you." He finally admitted everything. The cheating, the lies, the way he treated you. He's in therapy now. Dad made it a rule for him to stay at home. He's trying. Anyway, I'm sorry for how we treated you. You did the right thing. I read it twice, then smiled faintly. Some endings aren't loud. They don't come with closure speeches or apologies shouted in the rain. Sometimes they just arrive quietly, like rain drying from a window pane. I looked around my little apartment, the tidy counter, the single plant still thriving in its pot. He wanted space, I whispered to no one. I just made sure he had enough to breathe, without me. The rain started again outside, soft and steady.